Welcome to episode 9 of 100 African Americans Who Shaped American History. Dred Scott, 1800 to 1858. Dred Scott was an enslaved man who sued for his freedom and saw his case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. He began life under the ownership of Peter Blow of Southampton County, Virginia. After Blow's death, Scott was sold to a U.S. Army surgeon named John Emerson. Emerson and his wife traveled to Fort Armstrong in Illinois and took Scott with them, though Illinois had already abolished slavery. From there, the Emersons and Scott traveled to Wisconsin, another free state, and Scott was again illegally kept because Emerson asserted he was a resident of Missouri who was the only temporary traveling under the command of the U.S. Army. Without resistance, the Emersons took Dred Scott back to Missouri in 1839. Mr. Emerson died in 1843, and Scott attempted to buy his freedom from Mrs. Emerson. When she refused to free him and his family, Scott sued. He claimed that for years he'd been enslaved in free states and should now be granted the freedom he'd been due years earlier. Scott lost the first case, but he persevered and took his case to a second court in St. Louis. This time, he won, only to have the ruling overturned by the Missouri Supreme Court in 1852, 2 years after the St. Louis court had handed him the right to freedom. To support the next and final case, Dred Scott accepted the help of friends, family, and white abolitionists who prepared him for the U.S. Supreme Court. This ruling was most bitter. The Supreme Court denied Scott the rights of an American citizen and therefore denied him the right to sue. On March 6, 1857, Justice Roger B. Taney ruled that slave owners and their property could travel freely throughout any state. The anti-slavery laws were declared unconstitutional, and Dred Scott died 2 years later in Missouri. To many, Scott's case was the last straw. Those who believed that slavery could be abolished without violence were convinced otherwise. The backlash was extreme, and Scott's case strengthened the commitment of freedom that finally pushed America into civil war. The war considered responsible for the abolition of slavery nationwide, thanks to Dred Scott. Thank you, Dred Scott, for putting up the good fight. Thanks for watching episode 9 of 100 African Americans Who Shaped American History. Dred Scott, 1800 to 1858. Guys, like the video, share the video, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.